What up, everybody? Started the video before I sat down. Probably shouldn't have done that. Would have made the camera less rocky. But this is the OP07 tier list. This is take 2, and I'm really sad. I was literally about to finish up my tier list, and then my storage got full. So we have to do take 2. Deleted some videos that were in my deleted, which was not good, and then I deleted some other old videos. So hopefully we'll have no storage for this one. But it's gonna be a long one. Buckle in. We've got a lot of discussion. We're going to go heavy into the S tier decks, and then we're going to talk a little bit about the A's, and then a little bit about the B's and what they're lacking, and if they're closer or higher. And then C and D tier are everything else, and if I don't mention the D tier is dead, D for dead, and that's just Sakazuki, so we won't even need to talk about that much. But let's get into it, shall we? So D tier is dead, Sakazuki. It's banned, so it won't be alive. And with the hit of reject, Katakuri will drop down to A. He won't be an S tier deck anymore, so, but we'll get into that. So start off with S tier. Reparable Law. This deck needs banned. I mean, I don't even want to, like 08, I'm glad that in some ways I will be gone for that meta, because I don't want to play against Law in 08. Like, that crap is just annoying. I'm having some really good people that I play with on the sim that are like hyper good, and then we'll just start doing like random test sessions. I was testing like Promo Osaka, trying to make that work, but it just doesn't work as much. And yeah, it out of nowhere, like they'll just switch to Law and see how it does, and like I just get stomped. Like there's just no chance. Like it's just complete trash. Like I have to pivot to like Lucci or something else to even be remotely competitive. But Red Purple Law will be very broken in 07. I'm sure you've seen the list of, like, it just is really strong. With the additions that they got from Yu 1 and the way that it carries over into 07, it's going to be a force to be reckoned with, bottom line. It's going to be good against Black Yellow Luffy, which will be very strong because Sakazuki is going to be gone. And his ability to bottom deck Sabo is just going to be very valuable. Otherwise, like, Black Yellow Luffy would be among the top easy decks to look at as like a broken deck, because it's so good against black. Like, Sabo protecting the whole board is insane. There's not a lot you can really do to him. He can just take his life early with Flambe and Hiyori and all this other stuff and stack, and then play Sabo, and then you can't even remove anything. The Gecko turn is protecting the whole board while producing a Sabo blocker and making the leader 9k. Like, Gecko can't even really compete with that, and neither can Lucci, without establishing like a lot of big bodies on the board. All that to say though, like, Red Purple Law is just going to be very, very broken. Just to touch on why it needs to be banned. Black Maria, and Black Maria is not the issue. Black Maria helps like every other purple deck that like has high Dawn minus cost effects, and I get why it's broken, but the only common denominator of why Black Maria is super busted in any scenario is Red Purple Law. So I think that like that deck just needs to be addressed. I mean, in my opinion, like right now, it's gotten several second place finishes. I'm not sure if it's won anything yet, but it's broken. So just buckle up, because it's only going to get worse. Moving on, Enel, the boogeyman. Enel is going to be like super busted. He's honestly insane right now. I think a lot of people are sleeping on like the Rush variant with like a 7-drop Enel and the Kami card that plays down Enel for 4. Like, people are really sleeping on how strong that deck is. But all that to say that when he gets the addition of Ace as the SCR, oh boy, heal, rush, board control, and stall and starve Enel, like, oh my, like, really good. And the Shirahoshi blockers are super good into black, just because by removing it, they have to give him another life, which is another chance at a trigger or another chance at something. I mean, it just is so annoying, man. Like, it is so annoying. Enel is going to be one of those decks that if they stabilize, you've lost the game. Like, oddly, the hardest counter to Enel that I've seen is red, yellow, Sabo, out of the three brothers Shark Shark. It's the only deck that, like, no matter what I did, I just could not kill them. They had the answers every time, and Dragon in that deck plus everything else just provided a lot of pressure. So I decked out. It's the first time I've ever decked out against a deck. That's how much healing and insanity that game was. But they also have access to Ace, which is something you can't sleep on, right? They can also play Raigo. They can also do these other things against you. But you're going to have to address the big bodies with Vanel, and if you don't have good answers to their big bodies, then you lose. Like, eventually, like, he will just put on a lot of big bodies that do a lot of really mean things to you, and then heal along the way, and it'll be insanely hard to kill him, and then he'll control your board, and then once you don't have much of a hand and much of a board left after he can control it, he'll just start turning all those big bodies sideways, and eventually you fold. Like, you just eventually fold to him. Black Yellow Luffy, not much changes between now and 07 for him. And he's insane. And Basaka gone, that means he's a lot better into the top black decks, being Moria and Lucci. Yeah. Not a lot to say. Like, he's going to be insane. He can still put on some of the strongest boards. I talked about a little bit with the Sabo, like Sabo protecting the entire board from black on top of establishing this Gecko Moria that can't be removed. It doesn't even matter, like the Ice Age, Tempest Kicks, whatever else they have in their hand. Or for Lucci, the Ennis Lobbies plays and Gecko and all that. It does not even matter because Sabo's protected the whole board. You're not killing them, and then they're swinging at face with a lot of cards. And then you just fold. Eventually, it's just one of those decks. And the thing is being a 9K leader is nuts. Like, you just, I mean, holy smokes, he's really good. Next, Moria. Yeah, Moria is going to be broken. He's going to go under a little bit of an evolution on the cards that you play and cards that you don't, and some things like that. I think there's going to be a lot of adjustments for 07. And he's going to get some new tools to play with. He's going to get Sabo. He's going to get the... oh man, why can't I think of it? Stussy. So, yeah, I expect Moria to be very, very, very strong next format. I think that he's very underplayed in the East. Just because nothing changes. Like, he's still, like, arguably the best black deck in the game. No questions asked. Like, there isn't even really an argument to say why he's not. Like, when you compare him to Lucci, he's more consistent in doing what he wants to do and has more options against a variety of matchups. Like, he can swarm the board and take cards from an L's hand with Perona, right? He can also simultaneously, like, remove cards with Absalom and pop them and get rid of them now so that he doesn't have to deal with them later. He has access to Gecko, which still has, you know, does what Gecko does, right? So, yeah. Yeah, Moria's nuts. Next, moving on from Moria, we're going to go to Rob Lucci. Rob Lucci is honestly one of the decks, the first black deck in the game aside from Moria that I've, like, hard, like, wanted to pivot to play. And there are lots of really good reasons to play Lucci. He plays Moria the best. That is the first thing. The only difference is that it isn't searchable, but he also searches Stussy. Stussy being able to flat out kill an Ace or a Yamato or a Cat Curry or a Seven Lin or whatever big cost card they have is nuts, right? Like, there's just nothing to say. You establish a 9 for 9K that literally just removes a card, right? And the difference between that and a Red Rock is the body. Like, that's what matters. Like, if you invest your whole turn into getting rid of one card, but you didn't produce a 9K attacker versus contributing your entire turn into just removing a card, that's the difference. She'll have plenty of fodder to do so, like, no question. If Lucci, like, and this is the other thing, and this is why, like, Gecko is insane, and honestly, like, arguably ban-worthy both in 07. I mean, Luffy abuses him, but Lucci can abuse him in a way that no other deck can because of the specific leader-locked effects that Lucci can play. So let's go over the play. You play Gecko. Gecko plays Rebecca. Then you play Helmeppo minus something 3. Or Suru, right? It can be either one. And then you add back Spandine, play Spandine, Spandine effect, bottom deck 3 CP cards, and then play Rob Lucci, and then Rob Lucci, bottom deck 3 more cards, and then KO 2 cards. Between the leader effect and if you've established any lobbies, the number of cards you can out at 8 Dawn in both the height and then whatever else, it's stupid, right? So let's say it's Helmeppo. Between Helmeppo, Leader Swing, and Lucci, an 8 and a 1 die on this play that I'm discussing. You could kill, technically, what would it be? 3, 4, so a 6 cost, 3, 4, 2, a 6 cost and a 3 cost. Right? Yeah, 6 and a 3. Gone. You could divvy it up. It could go 3, 3. So a 5 and a 4. Right? So you get where I'm getting with this, right? Like the numbers just get nuts, right? And then let's talk about what happens at 10. You add Ice Age or Tempest Kick to any of this, it doesn't matter what's on the board anymore. You also establish 4 bodies. One's a 4/6, one's a 2/3. You got Rebecca blocker and an 8/9 Gecko, and that's 21 Dawn worth of play. 8 for Gecko, 4 for Rebecca, that's 12. 2 for Helmeppo, that's 14. 3 for the Spandine, that's 17. And 4 for the Rob Lucci, 21. For 8 Dawn. I mean, Value Town doesn't even begin to describe. You flooded the board. You got a 4/6, 8/9, a blocker to boot. And then the problem is Anel's response to this is very lackluster. You can't attack into the Lucci because it's just going to get blocked. Better have something else on the board if it wasn't removed. And the fact that also any lobbies can trigger Out of Life to come into play as a stage is insane. If you go second and I draw any lobbies, I almost windmill slam the card down because that. And then here's the other thing: Red Purple Law with any lobbies and Lucci effect, that is the struggle bus. That is the point where, like, oh boy, like, we in trouble now. We definitely in trouble now. So Rob Lucci is going to be an insane deck. And the fact that he has access to Stussy and it's searchable is also very, very strong, because now we got a body and something to remove Ace or Yamato or Katakuri from an L. And that is just really, that's high value that, like, you can't even deny anymore. Your bodies aren't living. And that 1-for-1 removal is just nuts. Like, imagine if I played Spandine, search Stussy, and then I just KO your card at 10 Dawn. Right? Like, I established an 8/9 and you lost your 10/10. Or your 9/9. Right? Or I said 8/9, it's 9/9. And then last of the S tier we're going to talk about is Bonnie. There's not a lot to say other than that she, like every other green deck, is an amalgamation of hot nonsense that is just really strong. Her leader effect is broken, right? Like, the ability to tap a Dawn on your opponent's turn and then tap either the leader or the or a battle card is insane. This is really, really strong into Gecko, because being able to tap the leader if they swing with something else first because it's of higher value, they don't get the Gecko effect. But if they swing with Gecko first and you have, like, a Gecko Moria on the board, now you're not getting that effect. So, like, by the late game, though, for Gecko, like, it just might be better to swing with, like, the higher cost card. But then, like, she could still target, like, something else on the board. Like, if you have a blocker and she just wants to rest it so that she can kill you with whatever else, it's going to be what it's going to be. She has insane consistency in whatever package that she decides to play, whether that be the Momonosuke version, whether that be the Supernovas, which is the most common, and Cavendish. Cavendish is just an insane card in the deck. Giving her 2 Dawn back is stupid, right? Like, if you have 6 Dawn and you play Cavendish and you get 2 back and you have, like, Punk Gibson plus her effect, it's oppressive, bro. It's just straight up oppressive. Like, you can't, like, everything's getting rested, nothing's going through. You just might as well fold the turn, and then she can just play 9-cost Zero, say out this card, and then otherwise you die, right? And then play Useless Kid while defending with Supernovas and other hot nonsense. And Basil Hawkins is insane. The fact that, like, once per turn, when he would be removed by an effect, you just simply get to rest one of your opponent's character cards while being a 6/7 blocker is stupid. She also has a blocker that's going to help her refund Dawn at the end of her turn. So, yeah, she's nuts. She's honestly nuts. So, moving on to A tier. Nami. Nami is going to be really broken with the Amazon Lily package. If you haven't seen it or ran into against it, I am telling you, it is cancer. It is absolute. I mean, it is solitaire to its finest. You get super frustrated. Unless you have bottom deck removal, you really can't do anything against the blocker that I think when it's KO'd, no matter how it's KO'd, she gets a draw card. Yeah, it's just, she's just going to get hyper consistent with a package that's very searchable and then provides her defense. Like, the blocker blocking an attack and drawing her a card is just way too much value. And then you eventually fold to her milling herself out. Uda. I think Uda is just going to get stronger as more good generic green cards come out, but she's not going to be as good as Bonnie. But I'm Invincible is still one of the dumbest cards. It's a card that I died to yesterday. I was playing Sakazuki, and this I'm Invincible is just too good against you. So, I mean, honestly, Uda might be like a deck that I consider playing for Gen Con if a lot of people are going to try and play Sakazuki to, like, end out their tournament season to try and get a win, right? That might be something that I end up playing. Red Purple Luffy. Red Purple Luffy gets Dragon next set, which is insane. So at 8 or 9 Dawn, instead of having to commit to Whitebeard, at 9 Dawn you can commit to the Dragon, make your Luffy swing 8, have enough back for Rad Beam, and have a 9k swing at your opponent, and then on the following turn have another 9k swing. The difference between this and 9-Beard is you're down a 10, like that 10k swing only going once is now 2 9ks going at your opponent. This makes your Gear 5 turn at the upper level really strong. And if you're not in any position in a hurry to play the Gear 5 because you have like another dragon you can play, 9/9/8 after 9/8 is just going to be way too much. Like, your opponent is going to be way too low, and then you're going to then be able to counter swing and just annihilate them out of the game. With Gear 5 taking another turn, they lose. Blockers don't matter because Diablo Jambe. Bottom line. Next is a deck that could be in S tier, but it will remain to be seen, is Perona. Perona gets really busted with the Land of Wano package. This is the Otama Searcher that searches Hiyori and Ryuma. And this is hyper important to talk about because of the card called You Can Be My Samurai. A lot of people have forgotten about that card. If you know about what I'm talking about already, you probably do in some regards, but in case you don't, so the Otama Searcher is a 1-drop card that has 0 power, right? It's not attacking anything, and there's lots of cards that it plays that, you know, you just don't really care to attack. You could put your little your little penguin dog thing on there for Perona, just draw 2, pitch 2, do whatever, try to set up your trash, try to dig a little bit deeper into your deck. You can have this Otama Searcher, and then let's say at 5 Dawn, you want to KO a card that's 4 or less rested. So what you do is you have the Otama on the board, and then you have I Can Be Your Samurai in your hand, and you have the 4-cost Hiyori that came out from EBO1, and then you can play the 4-cost Hiyori. You can rest both of them with I Can Be Your Samurai, draw 2 cards, and then you can proceed to sack the Hiyori off to offer Activate Main to play Ryuma to KO a 4-cost rested Lord character, and on top of that, draw a card off the Hiyori, which is just a lot of value. And then Gecko basically turns into the same thing that I just talked about on top of drawing a card. So lots of value, lots of value. And Yama basically gets access to the same package that Land of Wano package that I'm talking about, with the Momonosuke, the Hiyori, the Otama, and I Can Be Your Samurai. But she can also just play the Momonosuke blocker that puts the Hiyori, not the Hiyori, but the Otama into their life, which is stupid. So Yama just gets to be hyper aggressive, and in 08 she gets a really, really dumb card. The green version of Hound Blaze is the stupidest thing I've ever seen. Next, Blue Yellow Ace. I'm going to move that down to B tier. We'll talk about. Bottom line is the reason why that I thought that was going to be stronger than what it was. I was wrong. I don't think it's going to be nearly as good. It does get some good tools with getting the Ace SCR. And honestly, Blue Yellow Ace is one of those decks that can be very meaty and kind of hard to grind through. And he does only get better with the Ace. But at the end of the day, the issue with the deck is that Law exists. He can just bottom deck whatever's on the board that's left, and it's not hard for him to get rid of the cards. So I'm going to move him down to B tier. Whitebeard's Insane gets Dragon. Enough said about that. You're going to take an 8 and a 9 K-Swing on 8 Dawn, and it's going to feel really bad. And then still have to deal with whatever it is, and then he could just 9-Beard on the following turn, and then you're just plumb out of luck, bud. Green Blue Zorosanji. This is a deck that I think is heavily slept on currently right now. I just don't think there's enough love for the deck, and I think that like Sakazuki kind of answers it a little bit too bad. But in 07, that's not as much as the case because Saka's not there. Cards getting removed unless Black is playing Lucci is just still only once per turn. So Zorosanji I think can be very good. It gets a lot of good tools with Jinbei and a Weevil. And then the 2-drop Sanji is really powerful if you don't have removal for it. And then he can just keep escalating himself up and then eventually play like 8-cost Kid into 9-cost Zoro or something like that. So then you just eventually fold to the pressure of that. Boa Hancock. So Boa Hancock is going to be a leader that again is and we'll see how it plays out here in our meta, but can be the difference between an A tier and an S tier deck. I'm not trolling with that comment, okay? Now a lot of you may be like, that's copium, right, bro? But here's the issue with Boa. Boa has the ability to remove cards and generate hand advantage. That is a very big problem because it solves Croc's problem. Croc's problem is that you can remove the cards all you want, but there's still attacks that you have to take because you don't have enough cards or counter. Well, when she counters out, she gets to regenerate those resources by her bounce effects, and she gets Jinbei into Weevil, which is a draw. And to top it off, she gets access to cards like Gravity Blade, and then the 10-cost Kaido, bouncing 2 cards to your hand, while simultaneously putting a 10 for 12, saying, answer this card. Otherwise, it's a 12k swing coming every turn, and I drew a card for it, is ridiculous. Like, imagine if Red Rock and 3000 Worlds all said, hey, draw a card on top of what they do. That's broken, right? Like if you don't see how insane that is with a 5-life leader that is very defensive, has all the same tools as everybody else that's using good blue stuff, I don't know what to tell you. Moving on, Green Purple Dofi. I'm going to move it down to B tier. I think it can work. There's a couple of tools that I would like to see with the deck, but it will just remain to be seen overall on what can and can't be done with it. Yeah, I still think that Cage is going to be really good against Law, but it doesn't do anything against like Black Yellow Luffy. It barely does anything against Moria. Lucci eventually gets too tall. Anel gets too tall. Bonnie just doesn't care. So, and then just outright destroys you with Zoro. Dragon and Zoro, they're kind of in the same conversation for best rush, but I think Zoro's just going to be a little bit better with the Revolutionary package going wide. But Dragon is going to be one of those decks that people don't know how to play against it, and then you're just going to mop the floor with them with all the rush and like not knowing which cards are doing what. So, just something to consider and think about. Next, Purple Luffy. Purple Luffy is one of those decks where I think that he's still going to be very, very good. It's going to be good against Enel. It's going to be good against the curve of certain decks. Like still telling like Lucci and Moria that you're not going to get to your 8-on curve correctly with Magellan. Yeah, that's a card. It is going to be really good. This is also why Hottie Bell is actually going to be kind of good as well. I could see it being a B tier deck. Next, Reiju. So Reiju is technically an A tier deck against everybody that's not Red Purple Law, and it's going to be rampant, so it might as well be a D tier deck, isn't dead. That matchup is completely unwinnable. Anybody who knows actually how to play that matchup realizes that it is completely unwinnable. You literally just Dawn -3 play a card from your hand and do not play something that recycles any Dawn back, and then watch Reiju just get ahead of you, and then eventually like they have to judge you to win the game, and it's not going to matter because you're probably dead by the time that they get there, because you won't be able to recur your hand for 3 turns in a row, essentially. And so, yeah, it's terrible. It's a terrible matchup. Unfortunately, and this is another reason why Red Purple Law is banned, this deck could actually see some real viability. The effect to Dawn minus draw a card is something that I think has an immense amount of value, much like Boa, right? But she doesn't have a restriction on her hand size. She just simply says when you use a Dawn minus effect. And therefore, when we look at Reiju, right, like, she could do a lot of things, but we can't even explore those things because Red Purple Law exists. So I think she's being completely gate kept. I'll move her down to B tier instead of A. But if she's not playing against Red Purple Law, she's an A tier deck for sure. Like, she can outright beat any deck in the game if she sees like a good enough start, and then her game plan just goes off uninhibited, and she's at 8 cards every turn. There's nothing to say to that. But she can get higher with Queen Blocker too. So it's not like she's like, if she still has over the threshold for Reiju, she can just play Queen and still have like that 5/6 blocker and have a couple Dawn to play with, and like make another play or do something else if she has an established board. Yellow Purple Croc, yeah, it gets nuts with Ace. I'm sorry. If you think this deck is a cockroach, shouts to the guy who just top 32 to Los Angeles with this deck. I know people weren't ready for that because I saw his stream feature match where he Okamai Wade into a 19k Gecko swing into Kikunojo. Felt so bad for that soccer player, but dude, you gotta read your cards and know what you're playing against, man. Like, and it just goes to show you, right? If you sit down against a deck like Yellow Purple Croc in top 32, or you're in like round 6, 7, or 8, and he's undefeated, and you thought you'd never sit down against that deck, it shows that you need to test more. And that guy walked right into easily one of the biggest call-outs of what was going to happen if he had done that. And he just punted the game right there. It was unfortunate. But back to Yellow Purple Croc. Between 8-drop Croc, Yamato, and Ace, this deck is stupid. There's nothing else to talk about. I mean, getting a 10 for 10 rusher and then having Croc established on the board when you do this to do the Dawn minus draw filter and refund Dawn, and then come my way into an attack into something that you don't want while he's able to control your board and swing at it, and you can't counter out of it. You basically have to 1-for-1 remove his cards. Oh, buddy. It's bad news bears. Yeah, this deck is going to be really, really strong with Ace. Expect it to only get better. So, yeah. And then Katakuri. Katakuri is even good going into 08. Is the last card on the A tier section. But literally, like, Life Explosion Katakuri is super good. Like, the ability to just, like, blow up your opponent's, like, cards with Zoro, Onami, and Thunderbolt while playing Kikunojo, Shirahoshi, Hiyori, your Beji, and then eventually getting into, like, your Ace, if you want to play Ace, or Lin and Katakuri's, like, your 10 cost moms. 10 cost mom is just broken, but, like, yeah, you can still do a lot of stuff. He still has access to a lot of really strong cards. So moving on to B tier, Red Green Law. This deck is not going to get any better in the foreseeable future. I'm sorry to all the people who think so. It's complete copium if you think otherwise. Rob Lucci is just way too aggressive. That 8 Dawn play that I talked about is a for sure removal of 2 of your cards, if not a removal of 3 of your cards. If he swung into something, it won't matter how your Cavendish isn't going to live. Nothing's going to live, right? Like, literally with stage established at 5 Dawn, any 5-drop card you play is instantly toast just by the stage being tapped and they play Kaku. That is it. Like, I just don't see a world where Lucci exists and Red Green Law is still good. Obviously, he gets a lot better because Sokka isn't going to be there. But Red Purple Law and Lucci and Moria still exist. So I just don't know really where we're going with this gravy train of like, yeah, this is good. Like this is good. This is where we're going. Like this is good again. Like until like I mean, and they even get like Black Sabo, right? Like they even get Black Sabo. I even talked about this, in general for like '07, but like Black Sabo, the eight for 9 discard a card KO2 cards, like that are 5 and 3 or less. That one card alone requires no attack investment, and 2 of your cards are just gone. Like, and it's a card that's probably going to be played as 1 or 2 of in a lot of decks. So, yeah, this no, that deck is not going to be good. It's going to be mid at best. Queen is just a worse than L. Moving on to Queen, just a worse than L. Not even worth it. Blue Dofi. This is going to be a hot take. I think it is going to be B tier. I don't think it's going to get a lot of people. I've seen the price hikes on the Alt Art Leader, and I see the hype about the stuff coming out of its exclusive starter. Here's the issue with Blue Dofi. Blue Dofi is just a worse Moria at just about every conceivable way you can think about. Sure, with Jinbei being the card that you play off the top of the deck that gets you another card, and getting Weevil to draw another card. Sure, you can make an argument that that is a strong play. Like, I won't like cite you for that. The issue though is that Moria basically will do the same thing in every effect that he plays is better. Search a Gecko or a 2K, off hog back. Perona, pitch a card or -3 something. Absalom is removing one of your cards. Cerberus is a blocker, and Sindri is a card that mills 5, right? Well, you couple that with the fact that he's got high amounts of removal and all your stuff is basically 4 or less for the entire game, you're getting toasted, man. Like, this is going to be swinging 6 into your 5 rested, and your recursion ain't going to matter that much, brother. This ain't it. This is not going to be it. And I don't, yeah, he can go wide, but then again, in the later turns, when you get, like, if you have a high hand size with him, they play Isho. You rip 2 cards. And then now your entire board is subject to getting Lucci'd. It's subject to getting just destroyed by... I mean, it's bad. So the issue is the effects on the cards don't do enough against your opponent. They just recur advantage back to you. And if you're investing, like, let's say I play Gecko and remove 2 of your cards, and then you're like, my response is to red rock your Gecko and then activate my Dofi effect to play 2 more cards. That's fine, but I still have my Rebecca blocker is going to block, my Lucci is going to attack one of your cards, and if I have a re-counter play of Gecko or Sabo or Stussy, your value is just gone again, right? Like, nothing you did that turn really mattered at the end of the day. That's just from Lucci's perspective. Gecko's perspective doesn't change at all either, right? He just activates, like, Tempest Kick, which honestly, Tempest Kick is really strong in Gecko. He almost doesn't even have to pivot away from, the same build right now, because Sindri being a mill 5 is just, like, very, very strong. But let's ignore that for a second. Let's ignore Tempest Kick, right? Because Ice Age is still going to be played probably as a 3 or 4 in the deck. If I Ice Age one of your cards and play Gecko Moria and then Helmeppo minus or Sura minus, those 2 cards are gone. It doesn't even matter that you did that. And the fact that I can just recur my Gecko out of the drop, and yeah, you bottom deck him, but if you're red rocking my cards every turn, you're eventually losing this fight. Like, you have to put something on the board to do something, and your leader swing at me every turn is not going to cut it. Especially when you're at Red Rock, that means it's a 7K, sure, at 10 Dawn, to maybe play a body or 2, but, I mean, you're eventually going to run out of the body or 2s to play, unless you keep recurring them with the Moria, which I guess I could see, but at the same time, if you invest the turn into Moria on Red Rocking, you're not investing the turn into playing 2 cards. So, like, it's it fizzles out. It doesn't have the teeth. It's not doing anything to your opponent. And for the record, Enel is going to eat that deck alive. Like like Enel is just like, man, you wish you were as strong as me as a warlord. Like there's nothing you can do. Like there just isn't. Like your cards that are played sideways are just getting subject to get feasted on by Ace. You can't kill him, and furthermore, like you can put the bodies out there, and then like Yamato comes down and just pops one of them and heals him back to 2. And then he swings like 6 into another card. And then same thing with Ace, like 5-10 into another. Like you're not keeping the bodies on the board, and you just eventually fold to this pressure. So yeah. Moving on, we're gonna talk about just Red Ace and Blue Croc. Both of these are fine. Blue Croc's just a worse boa, so I just don't really see him having the limelight anymore unless bouncing effects become really good. But it'd be really good if he could draw a card, but he's not going to draw a card. So I think that Blue Croc is finally going to get, like, as one of the top blue, like, go-to leaders, he's finally going to get the peg down. And finally, that's just the end of that. Red Ace gets a lot of nice tools, both in Dragon, and he's just going to get a little bit of support here and there, I think, from 07 to 08, but nothing that, like, catapults him into A tier, right, or S tier. So, next, Yellow Mom. This deck is Copium, and if you're playing this deck, it's not that it's not good, because Tenlin exists, and Yellow is really good, and has a lot of really good support. Like, I see that, and it's still not better than Katakuri, and it certainly is not going to be better than Enel. So it is just flat copium for you to be playing this deck. In fact, if you're going to, like Enel is just going to, like, laugh hard. And then, like, when you sit there and say, well, like, I big bomb trash your, like, second to last life and swing 5 and you counter out, and now I have this 10 for 12, what do? They just rag out your card. So, yeah. No. It's just, it's not really a thing. Like Yellow Mom is not the answer. Green Kid is that deck that's this close. I'm not even trolling. The amount of Supernova support that's come out, man, and we all look at Bonnie because she's like the shiny new toy out of the box that everybody wants to play competitive games with and use her obviously very strong effect. But Green Kid is a 5 life green leader that can swing 7 twice at 5 Dawn. And there is not a lot of decks that can handle 8-7-7, and then I'll just be immediately put on a back foot position, especially being a 4 life leader. And I'm not sure if there's a room for him, given the level of green support that's coming out with what we currently have. Because, like, think about it. Every single good green card I've talked about in this video, Basil Hawkins, Cavendish, the Hiyori Otama package, all of that is simultaneously playable in him. And he has a 12-12 shotgun waiting at the end of every single game. Like, just imagine a world where 9-cost Zoro is sitting on the board and your opponent passes into the following turn with Kid. 9, 9, 9, 7, 3, 4. So 5 9K swings. Like, if there could be a build that was out there, right? And I get why Bonnie's good, because she's doing something to your opponent on your opponent's turn. But in terms of aggression and just winning the game, I think there's a place for Kid. I really do. I really do. And I think that, like, just because he's so old and we always play him at pre-releases. You don't really look at him as a potentially green competitive viable deck, but green's getting insane tools. So maybe. So for that, I have him at B tier. Purple Kaido finally gets a searcher. Unfortunately, he needs another searcher. I don't know why they decided to give King 2 searchers, but then give Purple Kaido nothing. I hate it. But when Black Maria comes out, this deck could be very good. Yeah, it could be strong. The other thing that I'm thinking about with Black Maria, and this is just in general, right? His trash effect is a lot more viable with Black Maria around. The other thing that's super frightening, okay, is the fact that uh, 9-cost Kaido can just essentially be played back to back with Black Maria present on the board. So we'll see. And this is all in 08. This isn't in 07. But Purple Kaido getting a searcher, like, make no mistake, like, Purple Kaido can do some stuff. Like, there's just board states where you auto lose the game. like, you don't have a blocker and they've just board wiped you. And you have 1 life on the next turn. Oh, yeah. It's going to be a bad day. It's going to be a bad day. Next, moving on. Promo Sokka. I had this like slightly written off to the side for some reason. I don't know. It's like that little black squiggle up there is Promo Sokka. Promo Sokka is going to be B tier. It's still gonna squeak out some wins. I'm trying to find a list to break it. Because I just don't see why it's not. I think the problem with with Sokka right now is there is a issue with non-counter cards that you can't filter out of your hand. In 08, this gets mitigated a lot by Jack, but it's not. I mean, that's still 7 Dawn, although Jack is an insane card. The issue is, what do you do right now? And I'm not sure if Sanjay's Pilaf is just the straight answer. I'm not sure, what we can do to make him good. But to me, Sokka is a necessary evil that needs to exist in the game. And I know people are sick of playing against it. I know people are sick of sitting out. But I mean, here's the reality about it. Sokka is the hardest, best deck to play currently in the game. Moria is the most consistent best deck to play right now. And in 08, this transitions to Red Purple Law because Sokka is gone, right? And people want that removal. People want that like Sokka-esque effect where you still have to pilot the deck relatively correctly. So it's interesting to play. But Sokka truly is the hardest deck to play. Okay, I lost a game yesterday at locals. It wasn't my best showing at locals with Sakazuki, but I lost a game at locals yesterday. It was purely because I countered out of attack and did not take my last life. I would have survived. Okay, would have survived. And I ended up dying to a Dawn split that ended up screwing me. But if he had done the Dawn split after I'd taken the attack, then he loses. Because it wouldn't have worked. He wouldn't have been able to kill me. But the bottom line is my last life was 2K. I don't know that. Right? Those are losses that are unavoidable. I can't know what's in your last life. Can't know that it's a 2K, and I can't just bank on that and make a decision. I got to make a decision for what I have now and not pray for the heavens for me to just auto lose to whatever it is. So you can try to calculate the math out as best you can, but it'll be what it'll be. You just sometimes hope that your opponent makes a mistake instead of relying on the luck of my life, which is what I did. But that all goes to talk about like how close I was to winning a game against Moria, playing as a Sakazuki player, and it's just determined by 1 card, right? Like, and the thing is like I get that all of Sokka's effects are broken. I mean, I get it. I understand. I truly do understand all the ways that Sokka's broken and the way he checks certain decks and all these other things. Like, well, I can't play Red Green Law anymore because Sokka exists. You can't play Red Green Law anyway because all of Black exists. Like, it's not going anywhere, and like it's not just a Sokka problem. It's a Black in general problem, right? But letting Red Purple Law, especially with what's going to happen in 08, right? Like with Black Marine putting, being new techs into the deck that just break him beyond all measure. Just simply asserting that, like, Law at that point in the game isn't more tier 0 stupid than, I mean, he is like tier 0 level dumb in 08. Like, there's, if you just haven't sat down and played against it, you just don't know, right? And if you don't know if you don't know, and that's fine. I'm telling you, he's dumb. Law was not meant to have, like, Law's effect. Sorry, I'm going to side around. I'll get back to the list here in a second. Law's effect was inherently designed to have a cost of losing 3 Dawn in order to play a card. And we just have continued to give him cards that either ramp, re-ramp, or mitigate that. And now we're just giving him full recovery. So I don't know what to tell you, man. Like, and it's going to be worse because all the cards he plays are rush cards that have very, very broken effects. Like, Kid Killer is insane. Rush Zoro was bad enough, but, like, Kid Killer is, on top of it, is just, it's just the 7K, man, that, like, gets pumped to 9. And, like, I mean, I'm losing games where, like, at 7 Dawn, they will attack, like, I'll have 1 life, they'll attach 3. I don't have the counter in hand. Swing 8, then Dawn -3, play Kid Killer, and then swing with Kid Killer after attaching 4 Dawn, swing 11. What do you do there? Like, what do you do? You just die. And, like, and while removing a card off my board. And that's, like, the other thing. It would be one thing if it was Dawn -3 to just play a card. It's Dawn -3 to remove a card via bottom deck and play a card. So, I don't know. To me, the hit to Sokka in this promo, and back to the promo specifically, I really wish there was a way to make this promo work. And I'm going to try and find a way to do it because, like, he's also the answer to Red Purple Law, right? Like, he contends Red Purple Law. Moving multiple bodies, bottom decking multiple bodies, KOing multiple bodies, no matter which way you look at it, he's also a counter to this incredibly broken deck that only gets worse as time goes on. So, unfortunately, for the promo, I haven't cracked it yet. But he is still good enough to play against a lot of decks and get wins. So, yeah. He's going to be my little baby. But it's not going to be good, unfortunately. Red Yellow Sabo. Also going to be a very strong leader, a strong leader, especially when they get Dragon. Dragon, actually, and Ace, both of them. Oh, God. Oh, bro. They're both rush cards. Like, if you stop and think about it, they can both be rush cards. And holy crap, bro. Because here's the thing about Dragon that's insane with him. Dragon initiates the effect for Sabo. Like, you get where I'm going with this? So let me like spit a scenario for you. You have a Kikunojo on your board. Okay? You play Dragon, attach the 2 Dawn to your leader, and then let's say you had 9 Dawn, you attach 1 to Kikunojo, and swing 7 with Kikunojo, swing 7 with leader, and then swing 9 with Dragon, and then put Kikunojo back into your life. And then the next turn, when they attack you, play Kikunojo again. You then play Ace, like, and then heal a card, and then just swing 10, 9, 6, 5, and it's like gross. It's disgusting. It's the only deck that has ever made me deck out in the game when I was playing an L. When I was playing 07 and L, I went up against an 07 version of Red Yellow Sabo, and I decked out as an L. That is how grimy that deck is. No cap. It's insane. It's insane. I just don't think that he's going to have the tools to handle removal decks. Because, like, removal decks can just kind of, like, get rid of his board. Like, that's cute. That's a nice dragon. Here's a Stussy. That's a nice ace. Here's a Stussy, right? Or, like, we'll just reduce him down and KO him with, like, the Sabo or something else. And, yeah, I think that, like, black kind of keeps him in check a little bit. But he's going to be a force, bro. He's going to be a force. Blue-green Rosinante. Still going to be good, but unfortunately just kind of loses to black and eventually no. Although, to be fair, if Rosinante can wall up enough with Kid and then play like Sanji Soro, yeah, that game's over. That game is just pretty much over for any deck. Red Green Odin, it's not a bad deck, but it's just not great. Honeybell, I've been seeing some Honeybell and Magellan. These are both like kind of in the same vein. Magellan is just broken next format, like, which is one of the reasons why I have Purple Luffy in A tier, because like he's just kind of like the better, more consistent ramp version of Purple right now. But the stage being able to filter for Magellan is really good, and both of these decks, like Honeyball gets his ramp, and Magellan just gets his power buff, but Magellan, the card, is just really, really good. Ivankov is busted in 07. If you don't, like, know, this is like the Yurple Croc. If you don't know what you're playing against, you're going to get trashed by it. I'm just letting you know now. It can put up insane numbers and do some insane things. And then the last one for B tier is Red Green Luffy. Honestly, like, Red Green Luffy is probably pretty good right now with Cavendish, but like he's just going to get like more Supernova support, so like he gets to play with like some other tools. But Cavendish is busted, bro. Like the fact that like he turns Luffy's 4-cost, he can do the 4-cost play more times, and then like the fact that Cavendish is the card that can be restood is also part of the problem. So, like, if you think about it, the 4 Dawn that you spend for Red Green Luffy's effect is mitigated if the card that's attacking twice is Cavendish, because it's not once per turn. So, like, but you couple that with, like, some of the other cards, like Basil Hawkins, or, you know, like A-Cost Kid, and, like, some of these other, like, things, like, Red Green Luffy can do some stuff with his aggression. So sorry for the mild, slight soccer rant. I want to make the promo good, but unfortunately, I can't. And all that to say that we have a pretty diverse meta. If I haven't mentioned the deck, and you think I'm missing something, put it in the comment section down below. C stands for everything else, and I wasn't just going to start listing things like Purple Yellow Uta or like Purple Shanks or something like that, or you know, or Isho, God bless him. You know, these decks just aren't like, you know, if you're looking at Isho as like a hot deck to try and play, and you look at Perona, and trying to play Isho over Perona, I'm going to turn my head sideways a little bit at you, because like that doesn't make any sense. And I think that 07 is going to be a very healthy meta, and then 08 is going to be a tier 0 hot nonsense hodgepodge of red purple law that just shouldn't exist. So that's going to be it for this one. I am going to make a couple more videos. I'm going to break down why red purple law needs to be banned. I'm going to do a video on that, and then I'm going to do I just realized that with so much time leaving, I didn't want to like promise you guys more videos. I wanted to put out what I put out on the channel about my deployment. And thank you guys for the wishes. I know some of you who I know in real life have talked to me personally, and then like a couple of others have also messaged me either personally or you know, left comments on the video. So thank you for your support. I just wanted to put it out there so that like you guys aren't, not that you're starving for content, but that like I'm not putting anything out there and you're like, did he fall off the face of the earth? What happened? It's been a month or something like that. If I'm busy, I just get busy. But there are some other videos that I want to make, some lists that I want to bring you. some things that I want to talk about. Fusion World content might be at an all-time that might be dying, just because if Bandai doesn't ban Topku and decides to wait till set 3, there won't be a game for set 3 to release to. So all that to say, we're gonna probably hold off on that. I'm gonna focus on One Piece, especially when 107 drops. You know I'm gonna be bringing you that spicy Lucci bit list. Baby, I've got all my alt arts. I got my pre-release Sennies lobbies. I am ready to go, man. Ready to go. So, you guys know what it is. Leave a comment down below if you, want to say, hey, you missed this deck. If you have anything to comment, think I'm wrong, think I'm, trolling on something, think that I'm not trolling, or, you really agree, and here's why. And as always, I will see you guys next time. This is Marcus from TCU Discussion signing off. Laters.